Good morning, welcome to CATEX-TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. This is a live broadcast from Princeton, New Jersey. Today is Friday, March 26, 2010. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It's 3:30 p.m. in London, in Bermuda 12:30, and in Mexico City it's 9:30. If you need to reach us during the broadcast, you can phone in toll-free at 1-866-67-CATEX. Overseas, our AOL Instant Mail address is CATEX-TV. Our friends in the United Kingdom go to British summertime this weekend, so beginning next week we'll be back to 5 hours differential instead of 4. On this day in history, in 1979, it's hard to believe it was that long ago, at the White House, Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin, Egyptian President Anwar Sadat, and American President Jimmy Carter signed the Camp David Peace Accords, actually putting for the first time Israel and Egypt on the path to at least no more war, which is something that was in fact a result of the agreement. Today's birthdays: the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, is 70 years old today, and Leonard Nimoy from Star Trek, Dr. Spock, is 79. Now we'll go to our main news. Well, it looks, again, every time we mention this, you have to caveat it, but this time it might be the case. Greece might be out of the woods. Europe's leaders have agreed to a deal to help Greece in a move to restore confidence in the euro, as well as to spark the European commercial markets into lending on favorable terms. European leaders met in Brussels. Here they are here. Here's Chancellor Merkel on the left, Prime Minister Papandreou of Greece in the center, French President Nicolas Sarkozy on the right. The leaders agreed to back a French-German-sponsored plan as a means to provide an economic safety net for Greece if Greece's own budget-cutting measures prove inadequate. Merkel said this morning that the move was important to protect euro stability. She had been the holdout here in helping Greece, but she went on to say that for all of us today, it's important that our common currency, the euro, remains stable, and that's why yesterday was important. Under the accord, Athens will receive coordinated bilateral loans from its Eurozone partners, as well as International Monetary Fund assistance if it's unable to raise enough money in the capital markets. The Greeks are happy. The correspondent, specifically Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera's correspondent in Brussels, says that no aid is yet being given to Greece, as Athens wants to go to the financial markets and see if it can refinance its debt on its own. So hopefully we'll see that. The Greek banks are actually up today significantly, so maybe that's a positive sign. Well, here's another positive sign. If you own Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett is at it again. He's continuing to build up his stake at Munich Re. He's now up to about 8%. He became the single biggest shareholder in Munich Re back in February, and now his 8% holding dwarfs other investors. His nearest rival was BlackRock. They were up at 4.6% in December. Buffett purchased a convertible instrument in mid-January that gave him the option to acquire 3.8 million Munich Re shares, equivalent to about 2% of the reinsurer's share capital. Buffett already owns Berkshire Hathaway, and he also owns a 3% stake in Swiss Re. Munich Re's shares have risen more than 10% since January 15th, making Mr. Buffett's stake equal to about $2.4 billion US. We reported earlier this week about the 143-member FSA Special Hit Squad that went through London on, I think, Tuesday morning. And we also mentioned that they were aimed at Moore Capital. And we also had this name, although we didn't release it, we'll release it now. Julian Rifat, R-I-F-A-T, is the hedge fund trader at the center of the insider dealing probe. He's an employee at Moore Capital, and he said this morning via his lawyer that he's innocent, and he's deeply distressed by the allegations against him. The FSA and the Serious Organized Crime Agency, the SOCOs, arrested 7 people on Tuesday in suspicion of involvement in a long-running and sophisticated insider trading ring. Rifat's lawyer continued. He said he denies the allegations. He's not been charged with any offense. He's deeply distressed. He's working to clear his name. It would not be appropriate for us or for him to comment at this stage in light of the fact that the investigation is going forward. Rifat works for the London arm of Moore Capital, billionaire Lewis Moore Bacon's $14 billion U.S. hedge fund. Well, the IAG, the Australia group, is beginning to Insurance Australia Group is beginning to tally up the claims from this past week's Perth blast, and they're adding it into their overall Australian exposure. It looks as if the costs are going to rise up to the billions of dollars Australian. Severe rains and flooding in many parts of South Queensland since mid-February were followed by storms that hit Victoria, and of course earlier this week the storm that bashed into Perth. The Insurance Council of Australia said this morning that the industry so far has received 42,000 claims, totaling about 200 million Australian for the Perth storm, and they expect another 7,500 claims related to the floods in Queensland. This would be another 120 million Australian. And then they also expect 80,000 claims, or about 491 million Australian, coming from Victoria. So by my rudimentary math, that's already at about 800 million Australian. And the council hastens to note that typically claims from major natural disasters take a number of weeks to be lodged and even longer to be assessed. IAG has reacted. They've cut their full-year insurance margin guidance by a whole percentage point. They say that they're lowering their guidance for the year down to 9.5% to 11% from 10.5% to 12%. Brit has come in with their numbers from Chile and Xynthia. Brit says that they're forecasting net losses of 71 million to 97 million from the Chilean quake. Brit's exposure arises from its international property treaty catastrophe reinsurance, its direct property insurance, and a marine book comprising cargo and offshore energy. Brit bases its losses on estimates, underlined, on a lower range of industry-wide losses of $6 billion and an upper range of industry-wide losses at $10 billion. This is a further indication that loss estimates are crystallizing around the bottom of the range. Brit also estimates that should the market loss reach $10 billion US on its inward property international CAT treaty, they'll have no additional exposure. They concluded by saying that they do not consider Xynthia to be a major claim for the group. Yesterday we actually omitted this story. We will not omit it today, but Catlin down in Bermuda estimated its losses from the Chilean quake and Xynthia will total hit about 150 million US. Estimates of the Chilean quake still vary, and they contain a considerable degree of uncertainty. Catlin admonished that it will be many months until claims arising from this catastrophe can be estimated with any precision. They say that the Chilean quake might cost them 140 million net of reinsurance and insurance reinstatements. They say that Xynthia, at the most, will cost no more than 10 million US. Stock market in the U.S. is up about 62 points. It's at about 10,902, the Dow Jones. We'll go to a word from our sponsors.
You may have already seen the demonstration of the CATEX Global Exchange in action. Some of the features of the exchange and our Pivot Point 2 software are especially useful to facultative and excess surplus lines brokers and markets. Here, we see the opening page of the contract workspace, which shows some of the details of a facultative risk as seen by the listing broker. Behind this opening page are screens which provide details of the contract of certificate, details on the parties or markets on the certificate, details of the exposures on the certificate, including aggregate